Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's narration of the web series The Human from a Dungeon. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 62. Gali Morathi, Adventurer Level 13, Dwarf Calcutan. Mako, Haida, and Ithrima talked amongst themselves about what the receptionist had told us. He had said that even though it will take a while for a team of specialists to be formed, coming back was the right call. If we had tried to take on the vampires by ourselves, we would have almost certainly died and become part of the vampire nest. I know it was the right call, but Rebus and I felt a bit bad about it. By the time it takes for another team to fall, more people will disappear, and the nest will get larger and more dangerous. Part of us wanted to go back in and give it a try. An extremely stupid part of us, that is. To distract ourselves from these almost certainly suicidal urges, we'd been watching the overgrown lizard trying to eat its weight in meat. It's a good thing that meat's cheap. "So you like the food?" I asked the kobold. He replied, with a stuffed face. "Voracious little crap, isn't he?" Rebus muttered. The kobold tilted its head at Rebus and then unhinged its jaw to swallow what he had just shoved in its mouth. Rebus and I flinched in disgust as the chunk of roast direwolf slid down its throat.
"What mean?"
he asked.
That word?
"Voracious. It means someone or something that eats a lot," I clarified.
Is I eating too much?
"Nah," Rebus chuckled. "The meat here is pretty cheap, and you probably saved our asses, so eat up."
Can I eat just regular? Don't know how to eat up,
it said, lifting its head up and pointing at its snout to the ceiling.
Maybe can. What's that thing?
The kobold shifted its eyes and looked at the group approaching us. I had been keeping an eye out on the outsiders the moment they'd entered, but they headed straight for the receptionist and hadn't caused a fuss. They were dressed as adventurers, not hunters, but it isn't uncommon for people from the AG to come around. Still, some of the groups closer to them had looked pretty shocked. I wasn't able to tell why, though. Maybe one of the elves is famous or something. Come to think of it, a pair of orcs with a pair of elves is kind of an odd sight around these parts. "You should know this one. Those are the orcs and Rebus stopped talking as he got a better look at the group. "Actually, you're right. The fact is that." They were indeed two orcs, but one of the elves looked off. As they walked up, I did a quick comparison and noted several discrepancies between it and the other elves. First, round ears. Second, wrong facial architecture. Third, its smile showed a few sharp teeth that shouldn't be there. "Probably not an elf," I muttered. "Hello, sorry to intrude," the not-elf said. "We were told that you were just inside the nearby dungeon and found some vampires. We were wondering if you'd be willing to share some intel with us." Haina, Mako, and Ithrima turned to face the newcomers. Each of their eyebrows rose once they got a good look at the one speaking. The silence started to get uncomfortable, so I interrupted the awkward moment by sliding a chair towards the group. "Sure, but intel isn't free. Buy around and we'll chat," I said. The non-elf thing took the chair while the rest of its group grabbed some more, and before long we were all sitting together. Once everyone was settled, I waved an order of drinks to the receptionist and gave a brief summary of the events that took place in the dungeon, including how we ended up with the kobold.
"So that's at least 7 vampires," one of the orcs said. "That will be tough."
"Tough is an understatement, brother," the other orc said. "It'll be hard for Nick and I to pin that many vampires down long enough for you and all mine to blast them." The odd group began discussing entering the dungeon, and the rest of us settled into another awkward silence. I glanced at my party members, but they were still trying to figure out what the thing in front of us was. Even the drinks arriving didn't snap them out of it. I took a swig of mead and sighed. "Well, since the rest of you aren't going to ask, I might as well," I said. "Don't mean to be rude, but what exactly are you?" "I'm a human," it said. "And that is?" The human laughed and provided a summary of the events that led him to being here, introducing his party as they became relevant to the story. Nick, a human, found in one of the Unified Chieftains' dungeons. Nash and Yuk, brothers from the Altar clan, that had found and resuscitated Nick. Finally, the one that kinda set things on edge, Elmira, the Eternal. When Nick got to her part of the story, Elmira looked nervous. Once she was introduced, it was easy to see the reason for her nerves. Here we are, having drinks to lament our vampire problem when one strolls in and sits down with us. I almost laughed. "So what do you think, Gally?" Mako asked. "I think it's fine," I said. "I've heard a lot about the altars. From what I've heard, they're not easily duped and don't associate with bad actors. Plus, she's kind of hot if you ignore the age difference." "No offense, milady," Rebus said with a laugh. "I'm Rebus Ultha. This here is Gally Morathi. The other dwarf is Hino Trant. Mako Muka is the big-ass orc, and Ithrima Solal is our token elf mage." "Token, you little shit," Ithroma said with a growl. "Again?" Hina asked. "Do you actually have some sort of grievance against our height?" "What? No, that's not what I meant. It's just a phrase," she almost shouted. Rebus and I laughed as she attempted to explain exactly what she meant by little shit. After a few stuttered sentences, she realized that the three of us were poking fun at her, and started sulking. I finished my mug and looked at Nick. "We're the Western Wasters," I said. "We're named that because we're from the West and we usually hunt in the wastes. Lately, we've been hunting in the dungeons, though." "Makes sense," Nash said. "So are you going back in?" "Yep," the Cobalt beamed. "Gotta kill the suckers. He has to help the Lord." "Wow, it really does talk," Nick said. "Yeah, it does," I grumbled. "Too much, in fact. Anyways, we don't plan on going back in. We're handing the job off to our experienced group, a specialist party." "How long do you think it'll take before they're ready to go in?" "I don't know. Might take a week or two for word to spread far enough to find the right hunters for the group. Then it'll take some time for them to get here, and then get equipped and acquainted, and finally get to hunting the vamps. Why?" "We need to explore the dungeon," Nash said. "That dungeon's probably one of the cult's former hideouts, and they might know how to get Nick home. We're hoping some clue may have been left behind. If there's anything, then we'd like to know as soon as possible so we can move on." "Well, we'd love to help you out, but we don't work for free," Rebus said. "Plus, we'd need at least 3 more mages to know fire spells. Maybe another fighter to help pin the vampires down, too." "Would fireball work?" Nick asked. Rebus and I glanced at each other, and then at Nick's hip, where a sword was sheathed. "Yeah, any spell that can light a fire hot enough to stop burning flesh would work," Rebus said. "Why?" "Because Yuk and I know fireball, and I'm pretty sure Elmira can use fire magic too," Nick said. "Right?" "That is correct," the elven vampire said. "So that's 3 mages and a fighter," Nick continued. "How much do you charge?" "Shit. What are the odds of someone being able to use both sword and spell?" Rebus glanced at me, making me responsible for setting a price. I sighed and gave it some serious thought. The price needs to be high enough that they can't afford it, but not so high that we end up looking like greedy bastards. That will let us save face while also keeping us out of the dungeon. 2 gold for each of us," I said. "A little high, but it's going to be a pretty tough job. So 10 gold for all together." I was cut off by the sound of 10 gold pieces hitting the table. Mako laughed as Rebus and I stared at the glimmering coins. They were unified chiefdom and Balasar minted coins too, which had a higher gold content than Calcutan coins. No arguing our way out of this one. "Well, fuck," I said. "I don't want to do it, but the gold's on the table, and you're a big mouth, Gally," Rebus sighed. "I'm willing to give it a shot," Mako said with another chuckle. "I think your force analysis was pretty spot on, Rebus, and 10 gold is more than fair." Ithrima and Hemo were silent for a few moments. Finally, Hino shrugged and sighed. "Fine, I'm in," he said. "Might as well add vampires to the list of things I've killed." "I'm in too," Ithrima said. "In what?" a well-dressed but road-worn dwarf asked as we approached. "Why, miss—" "Hi, Lythe," Nick said. "We found a likely dungeon, but it's filled with vampires. We're going to team up with the Western Wasters to clear the dungeon and explore it."
"Yes, kill the suckers for the Lord,"
the kobold shouted, raising a freshly cleaned bone to the air. "What?" Lythe asked, with a horrified expression. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.